I'd started early for once, and I'd had 180. I was down to 120 or something. Ivy had 95, and he got the double. That's 800,000. And I remember it being just for a second, and I'm very good at never being jealous. I'm like, oh man, I wish, and I was moping a little bit. I'm like, 2 hands it lasted. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Phil? Shut the fuck up. Phil Ivy's a great player, when he won chips. Congratulations. I love Ivy. Love the guy. And shut the fuck up and just play your best.
This is the Chad and Jesse Poker Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final episode of the summer of the Chad and Jesse Poker Show on PokerNews.com, and we're very excited to just kick it off right away. Phil Hellmuth is on the set with us. We're very excited. We've been trying all summer, and it's the last day, and here you are.
I mean, you're from Wisconsin.
Right.
So, and you've been there for my bracelets, some of my bracelet celebrations. I'm like, I got to get this done. But it's weird because during the series, and I advise 13 companies right now, I just tell all the companies, guys, I can't do any business at all until during the series. And every year I'll come in and I'll be doing a little too much business. But now I've just learned to cut it off. Nothing. So actually last night at 3 a.m, I started sending texts to all my CEOs. Hey, you guys can reach out to me on Wednesday or Thursday. Hey, you can reach out to me. Because I had some pretty good ideas. There's a company that I might be able to get sold for $3 billion. I can't talk about it.
Good Lord.
And then I'm like, I probably deserve 1% for arranging the sale, which that's a $30 million bonus. But I mean, I think they'll probably say yes. I'm also an advisor. So
sure.
We have to make sure that, to me, it's very important to always do things right, and so the reason I've advised 19 companies and currently 11 is because I had a lot of value. So if they're going to give me 1 or 2% of the company, I figure that's easy. So all I have to do is bring them to
Sure.
One company. I'm on the phone with the guy. He's like, hey, can you connect me to Kevin Durant? We want him as an investor. Texted Katie's agent. And he's like, hey, how about Harrison Barnes? I'll text Harrison myself. It's a good excuse. How about Iguodala? Okay, well, I reached out to Iguodala, And so, just bam, 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 bam. That was just some athletes. Sure. And so, that's been fun for me to do that. And after today, my life will primarily be about,
the business and not the poker so much.
A lot of business stuff. And then, I'll be in Italy for a little while. And then I'm thinking about playing my first Triton.
Oh, nice.
Well, before we go into all business, Phil, congratulations. We love celebrating your 17th bracelet.
Yes.
Thank you.
My God, man, at 5 a.m, though. Well, I mean, what did it feel like going so late? I mean, how?
It was interesting. It was interesting because I said, hey, we don't have control over whether the tournament is played then or now. We have a little influence. And so for some reason I'd had 3 days off, I'd busted earlier the day before. So it's pretty fresh. And I said, hey, are they going to bring us back tomorrow? It's like 2:30 in the morning. And Ivy says, absolutely not. And I said, Phil, you are not going to dictate policy here. Okay. And, I was kind of mad and vociferous.
Right.
And he's like, he was annoyed. And then of course, we're poker players. We get along really well actually. So he sat down next to me, he said, Phil, he said, listen, I can't play tomorrow. And that's why I'm kind of pushing it a little bit. I said, okay, I get it. He said he signed up for a 1-day tournament. He made sure it was a 1-day tournament. I was like, all right, that's cool. And then he and I were laughing and joking. But I had to stand up and say, you're not dictating the terms. It's right. Like if I said it, I'd expect him to say, Phil Hellmuth, you're not dictating the terms. Yeah. And then we got to 5-handed. I think Phil finished 6th. And nobody said anything. We kept playing. And then finally, after 40 minutes of heads up of 5-handed, I said, hey guys, I went to the bathroom and we had a bathroom break, and I came back and I said, maybe it's best to play this tomorrow, give the world a chance to see in case I win. And one guy had said, no, I just drank a coffee. And the other guy's like, no, I feel like it's my time. I just got lucky. And so I was like, okay. So I just I didn't push it because I'm like, yeah, I support that.
Right.
So we kept playing. And then the guy who said, it's my time, moved in with queen 9 and got called by kings. And it came 9, 4 deuce, and then a 9 on the turn. And I go, well, maybe it is this time, you know. We were down to 4-handed, and there's no way that guy's going to like. So we kept playing, and, I looked around the room. The room's completely empty. You know, do you know how many tables are? What, 150?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you were in the Paris. They didn't move you over here to
the back
Horseshoe,
corner.
right?
Yes, yeah.
We got 150 tables in there, and I'm looking around. There's nobody there. Now, there were 20, 30 people standing on the rail watching, and then there were a few people in the Kings,
Right. Sure.
poker area, but not that many tables, so pretty empty. And I had texted my wife at like 2 a.m, and I'd warned her. I said, "Hun, the dream is I asked you to come over at 2." She responded at like 3, and I'm like, "Good, because I'm chip leader 5-handed." She shows up, and then all of a sudden, I'm kind of staying out of the way. These guys are playing a strategy where they're putting a lot of money in with ace 5 and 7s and 5s versus 7s and ace 3 versus 6s. And then I'm a little bit more cautious than that. But whatever. And bam, 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 we're heads up.
Right.
And
Only lasted one hand, right?
Yeah. And first hand, I have 4-8 offsuit. And I'm known to limp a lot.
Right.
90% of that, 95% of the hands. It's just the way I play, but I'll also limp with aces to cover that apparent flaw. Like everybody's like, oh, Phil shouldn't limp on the button, and now they're coaching people to limp on the button. Phil shouldn't do this. And then everything I do that they make fun of, Phil should never check in the dark, they all end up doing like 10 years later after going off on me for it. So first hand I limp with 4-8, and I thought, he said, yeah, of course I have to play this hand. And then he checks, and it comes king 8-4 with the 4-8 of spades. And he checks, and I thought, I have to bet pretty big here, and I have to try to make it look weak. So I bet out pretty big, and then he just moved in. And I was like, call. I called very quickly. I mean, if he has king 4, king 8, you're unlucky.
So be it,
yeah. I mean, but I just didn't think. I think if he had kings and 4s, kings 8, he would have raised less. So I call, and it turns out he has a 6-7 of spades. And now, I mean, he has a straight flush draw.
Right.
He has 1 kill card. 5 of spades, but I have like 4 kill cards that make him draw to 1, and I'm kind of standing up and watching, and I don't know if I have him covered or not. And bam, the first card off is a 4, and I'm like, yes, yes. And I'm celebrating, and I run up to the thing, and people are screaming they can all hear me, and they're screaming from the Kings, Phil, nice job, congratulations, all this stuff. But again, it's like 4 voices.
Yeah.
And I
4
run by my
voices.
wife, and I realized, oh my God. I waited for the second card. I started celebrating. I said, oh shit, don't punish me with the 5 of spades.
Right.
River was the king of spades. So if he had king queen, he would have beat me, or some kind of king. King, 8-4-4. And then I again started, that's when I ran after that card. And then I realized, oh man, might not be over yet. I might not have him covered.
Right.
And now I'm like, oh, hun, let's not get too, people are already celebrating. And I'm like, hun, let's not get, And I walked back, and they did the count, and we'd counted mine first night over 19 million. And when it got to where he had 16 million, he was running out of chips. I was like,
You got
I won.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's locked up. Yeah.
But I waited 16.8, and then I did another run, so I celebrated twice, I guess.
I was super excited to see you win it. I always am. I was a little sad I wasn't there because I'd been there for the previous 5 bracelets of yours, but woke up that morning. It was awesome. And I know one thing you do with all your bracelets is give them away. So who got lucky number 17?
David Sachs. Now, David Sachs has become quite famous. He's on the All In podcast, and but he's so on the All In podcast, my best friend Shamath Palihapitiya, and then Moore represents the Democratic side, and then Sachs represents kind of the Republican side. He's been red pilling us a little bit. I'm in the middle politically,
Sure,
but I appreciate the fact they can have pleasant discourse. And the All In podcast, I think they've had top 10 episodes in the world, several, which is incredible. I remember they were happy when they broke 1,000.
Yeah.
Now the episode 8 in the world. I mean, really?
That's awesome.
So just a bunch of really smart guys, and so I kind of promised the bracelets 2019. I had a list, and it was going to be Sky Dayton. Actually, it was Bill Lee.
I was
And
there
then-
for Bill Lee. I remember that
And
one.
then Dave Goldberg
Mhm.
died. And so I ended up giving to Sheryl Sandberg, who's, was CEO of Facebook, wrote this, best-selling, she's written like 2 New York Times best,
Right.
but she's, massive. If you're here in tech, Sheryl.
Yeah.
And then when he died, I texted Bill the morning of that final tape and I said, if I win this, I'm going to give it the bracelet to Sheryl and the kids. And I won it, and I called Chamath. He's like, "Yeah, but her name's so big. Don't tell anybody until you win. Don't say, hey, I'm going to give it to Sheryl. Don't drag her name into it unless you win." And so I gave that bracelet to them. They put it in a kind of a tower, a little in their poker room. They have the bracelet's in there in its own case. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then you were there for the Bill Lee bracelet. And then the next one went to Sky Dayton, just a wonderful human being, Sky, and a great guy. And then now David Sachs. And the next one goes to Rick Thompson. And then I'm going to give the next one after that to to my friend Diego. Probably doesn't want his last name said.
Oh, sure, there you
This
go.
man
Yeah.
likes to dodge the press. Diego, I'm going to have to tell everybody who you are
Well, we'll
when
censor
I win.
it.
Sorry
We'll
about
censor
that.
it. My goodness.
Yeah. That's great that you have it all planned out.
Mhm.
You mentioned that you might go play a Triton series for the first time.
I'm going to be in Italy for other stuff, and then we're going to go to Lake Como, my wife and I, for 4 or 5 days, which is, I've always kind of wanted to go there, so going to be fun. And then I'm there anyway. And so I'm like, I should play these Tritons. So, I'll probably sell some action. Probably. I don't know what I'll do. Let's see. There's a lot of 25Ks, 30Ks, 40Ks. So maybe I'll just take 100% of myself, maybe just fire 200,000. I've been very lucky in Hold'em. I mean, I continue to get there everywhere for a long time.
Right.
So it's mostly Hold'em.
One thing that we loved personally was watching your run in the main event, seeing you on the feature table course, and your hand with Rigby. Phil, as a fan of poker since the early aughts, I watched you. That's watching you and like Mike bicker back and forth was what really kind of drove me to love poker more and more, honestly. So to see you at that Rigby table, part of me was like trying to remember those memories of like the brat coming out, but we didn't see that this time. And I personally love that as well, seeing your evolution. So when you hit that 2-pair and Rigby, like just tell us like what was in your head?
Yeah, it's a tough hand because he'd bluffed me 3 times.
Right.
And so I said, all right. I said, I have to go with this. Now, I don't go with bottom 2 for that many big blinds against really anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And, unfortunately, on the ace 10-9, I waited for the turn card. Or, flush draw and a straight draw. Waited for the turn card and then decided that I had to go with it. And that one hurt. I also understand how hard it is for me to win the main event
Of course.
because I'm blessed with this great ability to understand poker and all the games, right? And so if you look at the results the last 3 years, the all-around results, I'm number 1. If you look at the results in Daniel's thing, lifetime, I'm number 1. Now, they always find a way to say, well, he's not number 1 from 2014 to 2017, whatever bullshit. But his lifetime thing, which we all respect, I'm number 1. And Sean Deeb's right up there too. And so I just figured out how to play all these games to kind of like all of a sudden every game made sense to me. And I became, beyond world class in every game, maybe 7-card stud. I still need a little work. And so that can manifest, it can show itself, but it doesn't mean there's more luck. So you play a horse tournament, you're playing better than everybody else in the world. You feel like it, right? Unless I'm delusional. And you always got to consider that possibility. And then just get unlucky a bunch of hands and fall 11th. And then another, and all, but it's limit. In no limit, I can just fold kings and move in with deuce 7 when they can't call me. I can do things, but, and so, but all right, I spent all this time talking about my strengths. All right, Phil, pat yourself on the back. You're a great player. But my weakness is I get tired.
Yeah.
And I blow tournaments. I've blown a lot of tournaments lifetime. I mean, a ton of tournaments I've just blown. And that's my weakness. And so that's why I probably took 12 days off during the series, or maybe 14. If you told me it was 11, I'd believe you, but a lot of days off.
Sure.
And that's what I have to do to win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could have won this 10K that I did win at 5 a.m. if I hadn't had those 3 days off.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I just fade. And so this great gift I've been given of understanding, how to play these games, but then, the weaknesses, get too tired,
Mm-hmm.
play poorly, blow tournaments.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to take up too much of your time. It was a great summer to watch you win. Bracelet number 17, 7 more than the next closest competition. When it comes to the World Series of Poker, I mean, you stand alone, my friend.
Are you going to be chasing 18 in the Paradise?
It's very difficult, right? Because December 3rd is a high roller tournament that I guess I've qualified for. It's a $1.5 million free roll
Yeah, the Poker Go Tour.
at Poker Go,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I'm an owner of Poker Go and in good standing with those guys, and I represent Poker Go. So it's going to be hard to miss that. And then the Aria is a sponsor of mine too. Hello. And I have to do an event for them like Saturday the 9th or the 8th, whatever that Saturday is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I committed to that, and it's important to Aria that I'm there. And then, of course, the World Poker Tour. I also work for World Poker Tour.
Right.
So I am wondering, like, some people are like, oh, I'm going to fly down there from the 4th until the 8th. I'm not flying someplace for 4 days.
Right,
Fatigue is my freaking...
You just
So
said
I'm
your
probably
weakness,
going to miss it, and it's going to suck for me. Now, I might be able to ask Aria to let me off the hook. But man, that World Poker Tour tournament's so beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
We'll see how we'll see.
As
what
someone
happens.
who loves both the World Poker Tour and the World Series of Poker, I don't understand the timing of it, and I think maybe they made a mistake.
Sure. I think a lot of people feel that way.
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Well, we're excited if and when the time comes for you to win number 18.
Yeah, we'll be there for it. For
Yeah,
sure.
it's always better when Phil Hellmuth wins a bracelet.
It could be
during World Series
today.
of Poker.
It could be today. I mean, like that. The other one snuck up on me, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I'm playing, and I just remember I was at Ivy's table early, maybe even before dinner, and I'm looking across the table, and I'd started early for once, and I'd had 180. I was down to 120 or something. Ivy had 95, and he got the double. That's 800,000. And I remember it being just for a second, and I'm very good at never being jealous. I'm like, oh man, I wish, and I was moping a little bit. I'm like, 2 hands it lasted. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Phil? Shut the fuck up. Phil Ivy's a great player, when he won chips. Congratulations. I love Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
Love the guy. And shut the fuck up and just play your best. And then our table broke, which I think was great for me. And then I went to another table and started running it up a little bit. And I was tracking Ivy a little bit because, he and I are,
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
I was looking at the updates, seeing how many chips he had, but no jealousy because like him winning is amazing for
Right.
poker.
Yeah, for sure.
And but just noting that there we are, and I just thought to myself, man, Phil Ivey and we've been at several World Series of Poker final tables together, but how big would it have been if this were like 5 o'clock at night on Poker Go?
Yep.
God,
Oh my God!
Would've been amazing. Yeah, for sure.
Well, awesome, Phil. Thank you for taking the time. You guys stay tuned for our Calling the Clock segment.
Holy shit, Chad! What an interview with Phil Hellmuth. My goodness, man.
We've been trying literally all summer long. I've sent him so many texts. I've been talking to him. I literally left a note on the door of his dressing room today saying, please come on the show. It's the last day.
Please,
And he did. So thank you, Phil. It was fun.
No kidding.
Congratulations on number 17. And yeah, it's great.
That's right. Before we move on, it's time for a message from our sponsor, Global Poker. You know that we've been talking about them all summer long. It is time for the GOAT Series 5. It's running right now. If it's your first time checking out Global Poker, make sure to use a code PokerNews for a special gift from our friends at Global Poker and us, the Chad and Jesse Poker Show. Check it out. Chad, actually, before we move on,
I have to do a little giveaway.
Yes. No, I was very impressed that you got this done during the
my
Poker Hall of Fame.
goodness, in case you guys haven't seen this, I got to show it to you. We had a little contest to get this signed WSOP chip by all these amazing Hall of Famers. It's signed by 10 Hall of Famers, including Hellmuth, Negreanu.
I see Scotty Wynn up
Scotty
there.
Wynn, top center. You got back-to-back. Johnny Chan just wrote the letter C.
Wow.
You got Barry Johnson, Greenstein, Todd Brunson, Billy Baxter, Jack McClellan, Barbara Enright. Right over here.
Nice.
I mean, it's sick, man. But we had a little contest to give away, and I've got the winner. Let me pull it up.
I would love to win that. I didn't know you were doing that. I would have had you have them sign mine over here, and I would have kept it for myself.
That's what happens when you go on vacation, bro. You miss.
I know.
You
Those are
miss
some legends
out.
on there for sure. And the Poker Hall of Fame room here at the Horseshoe is pretty amazing now that the photos and stuff are there. We talked about that on the last episode. Yeah. Who won?
Our winner is Jason Holowecki from Livonia, Michigan. Jason was drawn at random, and I'm going to mail this out to you very soon. I've already messaged him, letting him know. But here's the announcement. Congratulations, Jason. This poker chip.
Don't
seat
sit
cushion.
on it. Yeah, it's a
do not
seat
sit on it,
cushion,
yeah.
but you don't want to sit on this one.
But it's coming home
Treasure.
to you, buddy. It's coming
Treasure.
home to you. Cool. All right. With that, it's time for calling the clock.
All right. You know where I would put this? In a lockbox. The Bellagio.
Oh, really? Well,
I don't know about
we'll
that.
talk about that in just a second. Let's start the clock. 2 minutes, and here we go. Chad, what the hell happened over at Bellagio?
Yeah, Bellagio lockbox. I was setting that up. You see, that was
I
my
do,
little trick
yeah.
there. So Mike
Oh.
Gorodinsky at the beginning of the summer sent out a tweet in which it was very kind of cryptic. He said, "Went to the Bellagio today to access my box, and my key was stuck, not opening it. They wind up having to drill it, and when they lift the box out, it's empty. Extremely fucked up situation. If anyone has any insight on best steps, who to contact from here, please reach out." Then we didn't hear anything for a while until a couple days ago. He said, basically, anybody want to talk about this in the poker media? I sent him a DM. He selected me in Poker News. Thank you for that. And so we have an article up in which he laid out the entire situation, basically what he described in his tweet, but there was no resolution to it in his favor. It was kind of just, well, you signed a liability form and you're shit out of luck. There was apparently he wasn't sure of exactly how much is in there, 45,000 to 100,000, he says. Now, you got to remember, he's playing in Bobby's game, and it's not uncommon for people to keep hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in these safety deposit boxes. And so not to have an accurate, record of it. He's the only person who has access to it, or should be, and knows its contents. And he said Bellagio really wasn't that receptive to possibilities that could have happened. It just wasn't there when he opened it. And we really don't know what happened. It's pretty unfortunate and a good cautionary tale.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, to see, I think he was saying there were some stories of people in the past who would go and have had similar situations, which is mind-blowing as well. That this has happened not just once or twice, but before, and find out their box was just in the wrong number. Or people who've gotten the wrong box, opened up and found so much more money they should have had. And were honest to say, hey, this is not mine. You made a mistake. My goodness, man.
A lot of people asked if he contacted the police. He did not. A lawyer, he thought about it, but at the end of the day, he said this just isn't worth the headache. He still wants to play in these big games, so he's just accepting the loss.
That's right. WSOP Paradise kicks off December 3rd through 14th. I mean...
You heard Hellmuth say it.
Whoa.
Wow, come on. This is maybe bad scheduling. I think it's cool. I think it's exciting that the WSOP is going somewhere new.
Yeah.
We love the Bahamas. I've been to the Atlantis many times. I do like it there. I would be interested in going. Just not during the WPT World Championship or the EPT Prague, which is already busy on that schedule. And this is just going to put a lot of players to a choice that they don't want to make, maybe. And being last to the game, to the schedule game, I think WSOP might feel the brunt of that. Now, what they do have is they're partnered with GG Poker. They have a $5,000 main event and a $15 million guarantee. That is a big draw, and we know that GG is going to be sending a ton of online qualifiers. So I do think that it is going to be well attended and a success.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's going to be as big as it could be had it been scheduled maybe, say, in January, where players were used to going to the PCA, which is no longer happening. Seems like that would have been a more natural fit, but instead they chose to go the head-to-head route.
I mean, it is a challenge. The calendar is big, but what we've seen is, especially with the winter WSOP back in 2021, we know that there is a winter need, right? And so WPT has met that need after WSOP changed back to summer, but WSOP had their taste of it too. I mean, you say it's the first, last to the chance, but you're wrong. I think because of that 2021 series that we had. The question now is, can we sustain 2 WSOPs a year?
Well, make it 3. The WSOP Europe is happening in between that in October and November as well. So
right, that's true as well. But honestly, with I think it's over 1,000 guaranteed to come out from GG Poker, and with these guarantees, it's going to be something that players have to really consider, have to really think about. And I don't know if I had a bankroll, Chad, I don't know which way I'd go.
I'll tell you what, the WPT World Championship was huge, one event of the year last year, and now they know that this is coming. They're going to step up their game as well, and who knows what they're going to offer. So it's going to be tight come December.
Jeff Platt curse is real.
I mean, I survived it when he was on the podcast, right? I'm still here. He's not. Maybe.
Oh my
you're
God!
here.
Wow, you're a piece of shit, Chad Holloway.
We miss and love Jeff.
Yeah.
But he certainly was the curse during the WSOP main event this year. Everybody you talked to busted.
I mean, well, here's the thing: every tournament, everyone has to bust besides the winner.
That's true.
So that's just, and so I think it was just a good, it was a good comedic bit. It was a good bit that everyone ran with. I mean, from PokerGo social media to players to like
to Norman Chad on this very show. I watched that when I was gone.
Yes, and also to freaking they got like a temporary order to keep Platt away from Weinman, and it's just hilarious, man. It was a lot of fun. Jeff is a good sport.
Yeah, he was.
But I told him, hey, dude, I got something big coming up this week. You can't freaking talk to me either because I don't want that bad voodoo you got, man. You're knocking people out left and right.
Yeah.
Did you see the clip from PokerGo?
I did.
That was great. That I mean, we can't show a clip here, obviously, we don't have time, but my goodness, the editing was just chef's kiss. I loved it, dude.
Yeah, and I've known Jeff a long time, and he, like you said, he's a good sport. He rolls with this kind of thing, leans into it, and to give him credit for that, like Jeff has been a great presence in the poker world now for several years.
Yeah.
Great on commentary. He was great on the podcast with Sarah and I back in the day, and he's just always in a good mood, and he's a hell of a player as well. He's won an MSPT event at the Venetian, continues to crush it whenever he jumps into action, and so Jeff Platt from transitioning to his NBA background to into the poker world now and establishing himself where he is, it's great, and he's fun, he's having fun with it, and I think he's just a welcome presence all across the board. You don't tell me somebody that says something bad about Jeff Platt minus all this bust out, which is all tongue in cheek.
I mean, you're right. Jeff Platt's great.
Yeah.
He's great. Just don't talk to me or to Chad when we have something important in our lives, please.
Yeah, we don't need that jinx on us.
No. All right. Jacks versus Queens versus Kings. My goodness, what a freaking hand. Down to the final 15 of the main event. If you don't know what we're talking about, this is, of course, during the World Series Poker main event. Down to 15 players heading into day 8. They had 6 more eliminations were needed before the final table would be set. And, of course, this record-shattering World Series Poker main event. And it got down to this amazing hand that included Aguilera, Payne, and Weinman. The action goes like this. Let's see. Overnight, day 6 chip leader Joshua Payne opened with a raise in middle position with pocket kings. Jose Aguilera was dealt pocket queens on the button, went for a 3-bet. Weinman was in the small blind, looked at pocket jacks, looked at them both and said, you know what? Let's go for it. Moved all in. Payne shoves over the top, having both Aguilera and Weinman covered. And Aguilera called to put Payne and Weinman at risk. They flip them over.
Yeah, the flop is safe. Nothing happens on the flop.
Yeah, kings, queens, and jacks. But then it's that flip and turn card, man. That jack. And this is why we have Weinman as our main event champion.
Yeah, I mean,
insanity.
Yeah, look, every time to win a poker tournament, the World Series of Poker, there's always one hand that kind of is pivotal, that this is a hand that really leads to the success in the end game. I had it when I won my bracelet, recall it like it was yesterday, won't share here, not enough time. But for Weinman, I think this is that hand. There were some big ones, 3-handed. There were some other big hands that he had aces and he was the beneficiary of a jam with pocket 8s. But this one was the meaningful one, coming from behind, getting lucky on the turn. Not only that, he did it against Payne, who is a friend of his off the felt, right? And he even referenced it in his winner's interview that, it sucks for him in order for him to succeed in this hand, his friend had to lose, but that's poker, as they say.
Right. And I may have confused my words there. Aguilera had them both covered, and Aguilera gets shorted, short stack with his queens. But my gosh, the kings losing there.
Yeah. Just an ultimate cooler and then an ultimate bad beat.
Yeah, that's right. Speaking of ultimate, though, the main event was just the ultimate main event for me, man.
Yeah.
The numbers were crazy. Everything was just so much fun. Electric. It was an amazing main event.
It was the fastest final table in modern poker history.
Goodness.
We were not expecting that at all. To go from the play down from 9, it was supposed to be to 4, but they got so far along, or it happened so quickly. They're like, well, we got to fill this out. Otherwise the last day could be super. So then they were going to be hard stop at 3. And then we lost Jan-Peter Jakman in 4th. And it's just like, boom, we're down to 3. So then we're coming back for the final day with 3 players, all super deep. We're settling in for what could be a 12, 13, 14 hour marathon day.
Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah. I told my whole family, Guys, when you hear the door open at 2 a.m, that's Dad. Don't be afraid. It's not someone breaking in the house. Dad's come home tired. Please leave me some food. But no, 2 hours later, I'm like, hey, let's go out. Oh my gosh, it was insane, man. Someone said, "Is this the fastest main event ever?" No, that was 1970 when there wasn't one. They just voted.
Yeah,
that was the fastest. Who needs to even shuffle the cards? No, but oh my gosh, I mean, this is Chad.
Yeah, and for it to be a record-breaking 10,043 runners, right? Huge increase, over 1,000 more than the previous record.
Yep.
Jamie Gold was there to pass the baton, so to speak, over to Daniel Weinman, who I want to give credit. I've waited a long time for a pro to win the WSOP main event, like a well-known, established pro that we've all loved and rooted for, and Daniel Weinman is that. WPT champion. He's won a World Series of Poker bracelet before.
Yeah.
Very just well known throughout the community. And here he is getting it done in the largest field in WSOP main event history. I think he's going to be a great ambassador. He's going to wear the title well. $12.1 million, man.
Dude, I got to interview Weinman last year when he won his first bracelet in 2022. And I remember Lara, who does most of our interviews, she was like, "Oh no, I'm going to follow Phil over here. Jesse, you take this one." And it was so much fun. And so for him to win, I was so freaking excited.
Me too.
I'm so glad this all happened.
Too.
All right. The WSOP Player of the Year race is almost done. But Chad, even on this last day of the World Series, it still isn't definitive.
I know.
How insane is this?
Well, there is a one-day super turbo $1,000 buy-in tournament that could change a lot of things if a particular name won. But as of right now, Ian Matakis holds a very strong lead over Sean Deeb, who's in second, Chris Brewer in third, and then our guest in last week's show, Josh Arie, currently sits in fourth. But for all intents and purposes, it looks like it's going to be Ian Matakis minus some sort of wild miracle run. The points, I think they're going to have to be verified and re-verified. You remember a few years ago, there was the debacle with Robert Campbell, Sean Deeb, and Daniel Negreanu. They don't want a repeat of that. So they're going to double check, dot all the I's, cross all the T's before they announce it. But if and when Ian Matakis does take it down, I want to get him on the Poker News podcast and as a guest and just talk to him about the summer, because I think it's really impressive, regardless if he wins or not, what he's done this year to come in as a no-limit hold'em player. He does play a little PLO, but no other mixed games. And to compete with the likes of the names I just listed, who are mixed game specialists, we just never thought we would see a no-limit hold'em player be able to win this prestigious award. And if he does it, I think that's just a huge accomplishment and a tip of the cap to him.
Without a doubt. But Chris Brewer is out there, and he's playing today's Super Hyper Turbo. And I mean, what do you think if he wins it? Do you think he could potentially take the lead?
I mean, yeah, he certainly could. He's only 3 points behind Sean Deeb right now, according to the current leaderboard, but he's still about 700 points away from Matakis. So it would really depend upon if he'd probably have to win it. I don't know the exact point breakdown, and Matakis wouldn't have to cash. He's in the field right now. I know that.
Shoot, man, how crazy is that too?
I know.
When you've had such a summer of just unlimited cashes almost for Matakis. I mean, it's wild to see him still out there firing.
And credit to Sean Deeb. He's currently in second place. Sean Deeb is always among the top 3 or top 5.
But he was on that rail.
Year out.
He was on the rail minute, kind of relaxing, it felt like. So here we go. Do we hear the ding?
Yeah.
Oh, the ding shit. Okay, whoopsies. All right, Hellmuth Negreanu. Let's give our final update.
All right.
Our final update of the summer.
Was this a successful summer, in your opinion, Jesse, for Daniel Negreanu? He's down like $800K.
No.
Yeah. I got to say, so he's had lots of cashes. He's had some deep runs in larger field events, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But overall, he just hasn't made a final table outside of an online event. I take that back. It does look like he took 5th in the 10K no limit deuce to 7 low ball
June 29th.
Yeah, so my apologies for that. And that looks like to be about his most impressive score, right? 81,000. Now he had a bigger one, 101,000, but that was in a 50K high roller. So it's basically double the buy-in. Outside of that, it's been, the vlogs have been fun. I've been enjoying the ride, but he just hasn't had that big breakthrough moment and that contention for a 7th bracelet, if you will.
18 cashes from Negreanu, though.
I mean,
18 cashes this summer. How is that a fail? That's the craziest thing. I understand the numbers, I know, but man, 18 cashes in the 2023 World Series Poker.
16th on the Player of the Year race.
Yeah. So okay. I want to go back. Is it a fail? No. It's a solid summer. But with the amount he fired, that's the thing. That's the problem. 18 cashes is amazing. Would love to. I can't wait for your next bracelet, Daniel.
I know I'm not getting my $90 back that I invested in his poker stake package. So
God. Now let's count Hellmuths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13, but that bracelet.
Yeah, he could have cashed once, and if it was for a bracelet, it was going to be a success.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So to me, yes, Hellmuth had a good summer. Anytime he wins a bracelet, it's a good summer for Phil Hellmuth. He's extending his legacy. That's what he's all about, is these bracelets. So yes, for thumbs up for Hellmuth, thumbs down for Negreanu.
I'm going to go side for Negreanu, thumbs up for Hellmuth. That's my summer update there. Okay, I think we can ring the bell right there and say we're done with our last Calling the Clock from the Chad and Jesse. This has been fun, Chad. I love this, man. This has been a real blast. Guys, we've had a great interview with Hellmuth. We had a great chat with Calling the Clock. Now it's time for us to bring in a guest that I'm so thrilled. It's Hall of Famer Brian Rast.
Our last guest of the season, so to speak, is a big one. Poker Hall of Famer, 6-time bracelet winner, Brian Rast. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time on the last day of the WSOP to come sit and chat with us.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the easiest days of the WSOP. I mean, it's pretty much all over. I'm not in anything. Gonna late reg this super hyper max turbo, one day afterwards. But yeah, happy to stop by. Thanks for having me.
How would you describe? I mean, it's been a big summer for you all around Poker Hall of Fame. You won the PPC for the 3rd time. What's it been like this whole summer for you as a whole?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting summer. I mean, so this summer, I think I might have played the most WSOP tournaments I've ever played. I think I crossed 40, which I don't think I've ever done before. Overall, the summer was great and extremely satisfying. Last summer I took like 5 or 6 days off to play cash, but I played a lot of tournaments, but I was going deep in like everything. I cashed like 11 out of 26 with 3 final tables. This summer I had a big win in probably the second tournament I would pick right after the main, but like the main is kind of absurd, like the PPC feels winnable. But actually, despite playing over 40 tournaments, I think I've only cashed like 5 times, 3 final tables. I'm on a streak right now, I think, of 23 bricks. So just between, I did play cash for like 3 days, even though in that stretch I played a few tournaments too, just recently in the last week. I don't know. It's just, this summer felt a bit more like up and down, just kind of emotionally. It was a little bit slow start at the beginning. I did have the 1 final table, which helped pay for a lot of buy-ins, but a lot of bricks. And then that stretch right in the middle, obviously the PPC, it was super intense, went well, amazing, super grateful. I mean, winning that tournament is a dream, and then I like immediately final tabled something right after that. And then basically that was my last cash. And like since then, I've just been bricking everything. So, I'm really grateful. And then the Hall of Fame, which is kind of not like direct result, right? It's more like a career thing. But then that was, that lining up with the PPC this summer, I really couldn't have written a better script for how I'll look back at this summer and feel about it. Even though right now I might be like ready to go.
Yeah. When the nominations came out and your name was on the list, like what went through what were you feeling?
It was the 2nd year in a row that you were nominated.
Yeah.
You became eligible last year, if I'm correct.
Yeah. My feelings, there's a bit of an evolution over the course of like me being nominated because, people ask me about it and I'm just kind of thinking back to what I was thinking and how I responded. My initial thoughts like a couple years ago, even like the year before I was nominated, are like, you know what? I feel like I've done enough. Like I've had a great career, probably should make it in. And then one of the things I realized, like the more people asked and I kept thinking about it. And then, last year I didn't get in. A bunch of people pulled for Lane Flack, obviously, which was cool for him and his career because he died. And like, that was a good way to honor him. Right. And kind of thinking about that situation, I realized like coming maybe even after that summer. So then, for the whole last year coming into this one, it's like, listen, man, like that stuff is out of your control. Like I was really kind of the serenity prayer. Like obviously it'd be a great honor. And I have my opinion about it, but the truth is I don't vote. Like it's the people in the Hall of Fame, and everyone in the Hall of Fame has their own opinions and their own connections for their own reasons. So, my opinion this summer was like, you know what, just, I am going to focus on tournaments because that's a way to make a splash. But like, I'm just going to show up every day. Like all these ego questions just make you play worse. I'm going to show up, do my job at the table, and people will vote and think what they want. But, I'm just going to come play and enjoy my life. And if it happens, I'll be super happy and grateful and honored. But if it doesn't, then maybe next year, Yeah.
Jesse and I are both big fans of the Poker Hall of Fame. We've talked about it many times on the show. We love poker history. And it even seemed like you were a favorite amongst the nominees even before the 50K PPC win, and then that really just kind of put it over the edge. Did you get that feeling too, where you're like, especially after winning that one, like, all right, I think I got a pretty good chance here, and we'll just have to wait and see?
Like I said, I really wasn't trying to evaluate my chances this year, so that thoughts like weren't even entering my head. The thing that stood out to me that was really, really cool was, I mean, I think like both Osmus definitely gave like a video interview that I saw where he literally said like, this is an amazing honor that I was nominated, but like I think Brian Rast should be in, which Negreanu retweeted, and Negreanu was pushing for me. Phil Galfond wrote an article where he basically outlined the case for why like I should get in. And I mean, those three guys are like amazing players who've all played great and have had, you know, good careers. And, you know, what they think about how I play matters to me. Because I'd say what, you know, 99.99% of like the population out there don't, you know, I don't really care. It's nice if they think I play well. If they don't, it's also fine, because frankly, they probably have never played with me. They have no idea, and they're probably not really good enough at poker to evaluate it anyways. But like these three guys kind of are. Either they have all played with me, or they know people who have. So, you know, just stuff like that was one of the biggest kind of honors of the process.
What did it mean to have family in attendance when you received the award?
I mean, it meant a lot. It meant a lot to me. You know, as you get older, you kind of realize that, you know, a lot of things in your life you've accomplished kind of with the help of the people around you and your support system, like growing up, my parents, you know, since then, my wife. So, you know, my wife actually specifically flew, despite she's kind of doing some stuff down there, remodeling our house, like running that project. She flew back for this because she wanted to be here, which was cool. And it was great because I wanted to make sure to thank the people in my life and let them know that they're special and important and help me get here.
We had Josh Aryeh on the last episode of the show here, and he was nominated as well. And he kind of echoed what you said, you know, Negreanu speaking for you, Osmus. He was like, yeah, this was Rast's year. You know, if I would have won, it just wouldn't have felt right, because he just felt you deserved it. Now that you're in the Poker Hall of Fame, next year you will get a vote, and you will start looking at people who you think should be in those ranks. Do you have anybody in mind that you think, you know, I respect them, I respect their game, they meet all the criteria, and I think they should get in alongside you at some point?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I have thought about this quite a bit. I even addressed it a little in my speech. First, I think Negreanu's proposal is good. I think kind of the hall went to one. Listen, at some point, I think maybe too many people were getting in, given how small poker was, with people who were 40 starting like 5 to 10 years ago. But with the poker boom, you know, which I'm kind of the vanguard of that generation, sort of, it's hitting right now. So not only with some people that are already on there, but with this like flood of guys with amazing careers who are about to come in, like one a year is just going to be absurd. And by the way, like builders are just like never going to get in going forward. So, and obviously it's a, you know, apples to oranges comparison. Like players are not the same as builders. Hall of Fame should be built around players. I strongly believe that. That said, there is a place for builders and people that have promoted the game in another way. They should be let in, but it shouldn't be on the same ballot. So I like the 2 per year, 1 every 3 years. In terms of what you're asking, I mean, I think there's a couple other guys on the ballot who are very deserving right now. I think there's some guys who, you know, haven't been nominated, or at least weren't nominated this year, who are very deserving. You know, one of the guys who, to me, is like, he should be in already is Patrick Antonius.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the dude... Okay, so like I started playing high stakes poker almost like right away. When I was still in college, I was already playing 25, 50, whatever, like 18 years ago. Yeah, so was that guy. Yeah. Okay, and by the way, you know, he was even more successful on the internet. Like I had some good success on the internet, but he was like very successful on the internet. He was already playing like PLO and all the games and mix and like in Bobby's room, like well before me. He might have had a stretch in the last like 8 years where, you know, for whatever reasons, he had stepped out, but now he's back. He even plays Triton sometimes. Hasn't had as much tournament success as some of the other guys, especially not the WSOP. But I mean, just in terms of the criteria, like Patrick, you know, like why isn't he being nominated? You know, you could say someone like Steve O'Dwyer, who's over 40 right now. You know, so I feel like there's some additions that could make it even more competitive, especially at the 1 per year. You know, and then some guys on the list, you know, like Josh, who just had an amazing World Series. I mean, 25K horse is like a no joke bracelet. I mean, I know everybody just says the bracelet count, but like, let's be real, guys. Like, not all bracelets are created equal. I mean, you know, would you rather have like the main event,
like my casino employees event, or the main event?
The main event, like the PPC 25K horse,
absolutely,
like 10K six max, like stuff like that, or you know, I mean, just like an online like $400 one. It's not quite the same,
right?
You know, and so I think that like when you're looking at stuff like that should matter. But like Josh has been like, you know, wasn't it like a 10K championship and a 25K horse this year? And I mean, actually, I didn't even realize this, but somebody tweeted this question out, like, if John Juanda wins today, is he? 3. Yeah, it's like he's going to join this list of only 2 players to have won a bracelet at Binion's, at Rio and there. And I was like, oh, I mean, someone guessed Phil Hellmuth and me. That's how I saw it. And I'm like, no, it wasn't me. My first bracelet was 2011. And actually, my first year at the WSOP was 2005, which was the first year at the Rio. So I never was at Binion's.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, you know, it's Hellmuth, and who is it? I'm like, it's probably Aria. I think I heard he won a bracelet in like 2003 or something. And then he just won this year. And so, yeah, it was those 2. Right. So, I mean, Aria's been kind of playing high stakes and for a long time. So, you know, and he's staying relevant. It's not like a guy who isn't posting like results anymore. So, you know, and then also on the list, other than like those 2, Osmus, you know, Mike, there's also, I mean, Ted Forrest is like a really interesting case, because he's kind of a guy who, if you talk to, so like I never played that much with Ted, but he's kind of a guy that if you talk to the old timers, it's like there was a stretch where maybe in some games or overall, he was considered one of the, if not the best players in the world, which is maybe something that some of the guys on the list right now, despite their illustrious careers, probably never quite reached like that plateau. That said, I know that there's another reason that I don't really want to say publicly why maybe he's, you know, not really hasn't been voted in yet. You know, I'll keep that private, but like, yeah. So, you know, you know, that's how I feel about the list. Yeah.
So you're 41, turn 42 later this year. You've already hit the Hall of Fame. What inspires you at this point? You know, with your PPC wins, you know, 3 times, of course, you've had an illustrious career already so early in life. Like how do you stay inspired to continue come out every year and play now?
That's a really great question. I mean, even within the context of my career, I've had kind of ups and downs. I mean, like, listen, I was like pretty fully dedicated to poker up until about 5 years ago ish. Just loved playing and kind of had kept it going a lot longer than a lot of guys who played as much as me. You know, at some point, a lot of guys like stop. They've made enough money or this or whatever happens. I finally kind of ran into it. Like crypto started working out. I started flirting with the idea of being a crypto trader. I just didn't want to accept the new reality of solvers. Because I mean, listen, man, before solvers, I was a monster. Those were bad for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I think it wasn't really actually that as well known as it is now, where maybe my reputation has grown a bit. But like in the mid 2000s, like I was playing everything, like at like highest PLO, highest no limit tournaments, like mix in Bobby's room, and I was winning everywhere. Right. So solvers came out and was kind of like, man, like studying like this sucks a little bit. Like all these guys are getting so annoyingly good, you know? And then, so I kind of flirted with not being a poker player anymore, especially COVID. I barely played during COVID. I was doing the crypto trading. But one of the things I've realized is like, I love poker. Like I love the poker lifestyle. Like you go play, you're on, you have this pressure to perform, which I like. And then when you're off, you're just truly off. Like trading or running a business that requires like nonstop following the news, managing things. Like in trading, you have like alerts, you're in a position, it goes off in the middle of the night. All of a sudden you're not sleeping. And I'm just like, man, you know what? Like, I don't really want this. So I've kind of come back. And in the last 2 years, you know, maybe you guys saw like I'm doing the Triton commentary.
Yeah.
Listen, one of the reasons why I'm doing it, I'm like, you know what? I'm still a little bit too lazy to study as hard as I should on my own, but I'm going to use that as a way to like basically get paid, go somewhere, you know, do something, but like be in the lab. And my no limit results have gotten a lot better in the last 2 years because, you know, like doing that, running spots, like watching the best players just like break down spots all the time has been big. So, you know, it's one of these things where I feel like I've had a little bit of a poker renaissance, and I'm not, you know, it's like you never stop climbing the mountain. obviously making the Poker Hall of Fame is a bit of a mini step, but like I'm going to keep climbing, you know, and we'll just see where it goes.
I've always said Eric Seidel has had the best years of his career after he was inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame, which I think is an incredible accomplishment on his part. But it just, like you say, it doesn't mean just because you get in the Poker Hall of Fame that all of a sudden it's done, right? Like,
no,
you keep going.
Yeah. And I mean, like my perspective has changed. You go back at points, it was like I did come play some WSOP events sometimes, like max late regging and whatever, but that wasn't my focus. I was a lot more focused like on cash and like making money. But, you know, I mean, listen, I make money at the WSOP, but, you know, maybe not as much as if I focused on like the nosebleed cash games. But you know what? I just like, it's like fun to come out and compete at the WSOP and treat it differently now. So for me, the WSOP, I think also, listen, I play all the games. In fact, I love the mix as big as, you know, PPC, like dealer's choice. If there's nowhere to hide, it's good for me. Because I'm not the best at any game. You know, there's always going to be somebody who's a specialist who's better. But like, I think I'm pretty good to very good at like all the games. So I love that stuff. And the WSOP is like the premier, I mean, it's kind of the premier name in poker. You know, Triton's up there for more like the nosebleed stuff. But when it comes to mixed games and playing all the games, it's like WSOP, it's not even close, right? Like who else offers like this type of tournament schedule?
There's a reason people come from around the world for their bracelet attempts.
Yeah, so it's kind of like changed. And I think going forward, my poker career will be, it'll be more WSOP centric. I kind of love this as being the one time of the year where I'm like back in, I'm like, you know, like go back to the 20s and 30s where you're playing poker every day and this and right. And, you know, the rest of the year, you know, I'll play like the Carrie is doing these mixed game tournaments. I'll play some no limit stuff that comes in Vegas. I'll probably go back and keep doing the Triton stuff, play cash here and there, but a little, not like full time.
Sure.
But WSOP, you know, let's go.
You mentioned this briefly a moment ago. 2005 was your first cash. It was July 4th. You're at the Rio, and you finished, I think, somewhere in the 70s, around 3 or 4K, if I remember right. At that point, were you already in love with the game? Were you out here for the whole summer? Tell us about that 05, like your first score.
Oh yeah, 05. Let me think. What was the scoring again?
I think you finished like 77th or 79th, and you finished for like 3,900 or something. Okay. I don't have it on me, but
you know, historically, I've done like super well during the I mean, I might have only had one losing year in my career, and historically, I've always done well in the WSOP. I know the losing year was. It was the year right before I met Juliana. I was going out and drinking a bunch, took some bad pieces, was losing myself, like wasn't that focused. But yeah, that WSOP was one. It's the only losing that I remember was a losing WSOP. Came out with a little like 100 something.
Oh, yeah.
I left the WSOP with, I was back in the 5 digits as my bankroll. I guess I had that cash. I don't remember that cash at all. What I do remember from that WSOP was like I played the main, obviously like big spot, right? You know, I probably had like 190K bank, whatever it was, you know, 10,000 were in it. And then like I got like kings to aces in like the 4th level and was short and was like grinding my short stack and this and but it still went out the last level of the day. And just remember like kind of leaving that WSOP. You know, I was staying in some kind of extended stay thing. I'd, you know, walk out to my car. It was like so hot. Like you can't even touch shit in your car driving in. And then like, but just, it was just a good lesson, you know, coming out, like really playing some WSOP. I played mostly cash. Like I really didn't play that many tournaments at all until like the 2000, even like when I won the first bracelet, I didn't even play that many tournaments that summer. When I won the 2 in 2011. So it wasn't until 2012 or 13 I started playing more tournaments, but it was just good life lessons, you know. So like one of the things in life I think is you got to learn from your experiences, and it's much easier to learn when you lose or you're getting kicked than when things are going well. It really takes like a special person who's a little wiser. Usually this isn't a young person who's like winning and super successful, but then like learning the right lessons when that's happening. You know, I think when you're, you know, like, so that summer I lost. I went back home, I played a little bit smaller, and, you know, everything worked out. But, you know, it wasn't a great summer.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but Brian has a DJ mixing kit.
Oh,
I haven't heard. I'd love to hear your. I know you have one mix at least.
I do. Yeah, it's not. It has some problems. It's good song selection, but my mixing, I was trying to do a little too much for my talent level. But yeah.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is that you've made the Hall of Fame, man. Maybe you can take a little time and build your craft there.
You know that the day is coming. I was doing it during COVID. I was messing around, and then I even like got second to my next mix was going to be a bit more trance, especially some old school's trance stuff. But that one's been on hold for 2 years. I've kind of haven't gotten back into it too much. Like once every 4 months I'll hit it, but then nah. So I don't know. You know, it's become one of the things I tried out for a little bit and didn't stick. But I think one of these days I'll do it again. I'll tell you what. I'll let you know when the next one comes out on SoundCloud.
Smooth. I'll listen.
I wanted to ask. We've mentioned the Poker Players Championship, which you've won now 3 times. The only other player to do that is Michael Mizrahi. And of those three championships, does one mean more than the other? Is one more memorable? I know you went heads up with Phil Hellmuth in one, or was it maybe just winning it for the third? Do you have one over the other, or are they all kind of equal?
I mean, I can order them.
Yeah.
The most meaningful was the first one. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was my first like major tournament win. I know you know, I technically I had a major tournament win before that in the 1500 pot limit hold'em earlier that summer. Listen, it was not at the Thunderdome table. Wasn't on TV. It was like off on some side table. You know, it was for a decent amount of money, but like nothing that at the time was like, wow, like this is changing my life. Like 1.7 or whatever, the main one was like a big number at that time. So, yeah, definitely that was number one. Also, you know, heads up with Phil Hellmuth, you know, the ledge. And so, the second most meaningful would be the one that just happened. I feel like, cause like I said, it, you know, listen, I'll start with why the other one's the third. You know, in 2016, right? Listen, in 2016, like I said, man, I was a robot poker monster. Okay. It's just like, okay, another thing I'm doing, boom. It was almost like meaningful in the sense that, man, I took it as like a big slight that like Timex did his like markup.
Yeah.
And I was like 1.2, which was like the lowest of anyone in Bobby's room. I'm like, yo, what are you smoking? Like I play way more tournaments than these guys. The big bet's uncapped. And like, by the way, I'm winning in Bobby's room, even if, you know, a lot of them are better at some of the limit games at this point than me. So I'm just like booked it for the max he would take, you know, and then he no more. And then other guys, Timofey and like, or Matt Kirk and like Timofey drafted teams and nobody drafted me on their 5-person team. And so I thought Matt Kirk's team was weaker. And I was like, yo, Matt, so how about you get me versus everyone on your team at 10% each, but you know, you got to give me 11 because obviously I'm worse than everyone. You guys didn't draft me. And we like settled on 10.5. So it's like, I had this, like all this extra. And even despite that, it was just like, yeah, it was more just like satisfying to like show it and this, and then just boom, on to the next thing. Right. But so this last one was like a little different because yeah, like the COVID stretch, I didn't play that much poker for 2 years, trading, like coming back. Maybe I had a stretch where I've been regaining confidence, but it's like, okay, you know, am I as good as I was previously, you know, kind of compared to what I felt like compared to other people. So like winning this again now was just, it was like sweeter than that one because maybe my confidence level wasn't quite as high as in like 2016. So it's number 2, you know, also just the 3 times time Mike and whatever. And I did have a little extra, by the way. You guys saw Oppenheim there?
Yeah.
Okay, listen. Oppenheim and we're buddies, but like, listen, man, we're not like close enough friends that he's coming to swap my final table. He had a little extra on me with Aaron and Timofey, and I had a quarter of that. So there was a little extra on this one too, but not quite as much as 16.
Well, before we let you go, you know, talking about Bobby's Room, Chad and I are huge fans of the game, obviously, as a lot of our audience are. You know, Doyle played there obviously so much. Do you have any cool story you can tell us that we just a peek into all those experiences you had?
I mean, listen, I'm actually like really bad with stories. I'm just not the guy. Like my long-term memory with that stuff is dicey. I'm not gonna be able to come up with one on the spot, and maybe one that I would might not even, you know, whatever. Listen, gambling with Doyle was awesome. I mean, obviously going into Bobby's room, Doyle was still like kind of, most famous, accomplished guy in poker.
Right.
Doyle was always a gentleman with me, like not even just me, like with my wife when she would come in. Even like I actually tweeted this going into the summer because it was like obviously Doyle passed, which was super sad. Doyle initially, like years ago, said one of the things that like always stuck out to me because like it was probably the most prominent time like a great player like just publicly said something about me in that way that made me say, okay, like, you know what? Because you guys asked this question, but listen, when great players or people who have done a lot in poker, like really, have something to say about how you play, it sticks. It sticks. And Doyle had made some he like retweeted something. I retweeted something in like 18, just like Brian's like the player nobody's talking about. He's might be the best player in the game, all around player in the game right now. And like, I've been playing with Doyle all the time in Bobby's room. So, it's not like he's getting this off. It's like what he thinks based on me playing with him. And it just it really like meant something to me for him to say that and say it publicly. Cause like normally people don't,
Sure.
if you do feel that about somebody you're playing with, you almost never say it, right?
Sure.
Either way, like good or bad, it's kind of, you keep it to yourself. For him to like just say it publicly was like this. And I know, in some tournaments, he bet on me in like PPC drafts and whatever. So yeah, that was just, that was really special. And Doyle was just, he's just a gentleman to gamble with in Bobby's room. Like, Bobby's room is a place where, I don't know if you've heard stories, but a big game, a lot of swings, a lot of great players, but people can get emotional in there. It's like I'd say of all the places I've played, by far that's the place where it's just like kind of little arguments, little needles, like people really get tilted, they get thrown off, like people are, well, obviously a lot of, like probably slightly aspies, a lot of people with other like personality things. So it's like, you got all these people in there and a lot of them are hyper competitive, even if they're sort of not away from the table. So stuff can fly, but like it was never that way with Doyle.
Sure.
So like, yeah. And that, and obviously Doyle's like the grandfather of poker and all that. So that was always cool. So like, I have nothing but like the best, and then plus Doyle, he played basketball. Basketball was one of my favorite sports. So we always talked a lot of basketball and like would, bet big free and stuff. And so, yeah, I had a good relationship with Doyle. He was awesome. He'll be missed. Rest in peace, rest in peace, Doyle Brunson.
Yep. I want to ask one last quick question before we let you go. You are now a 6-time World Series of Poker gold bracelet winner. What do you do with all those bracelets? Do you have them on display? Are they in a safe? What do you do with them?
Right now, they're in a safe. For people that know, I have the most ridiculous home remodel story of all time. It's like I'm not going to get into it, but basically when the home is done, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But like
you never
when
hear
it's
a
done,
home renovation story that goes well.
No, it's really like you hear bad ones. Mine is like fucking 3 standard deviations. It's just so sick. Anyway, when it's done, yeah, I'll probably, put them on maybe in my office. I'll have a little thing with my bracelets and some sports cards and whatever. But that some of the better basketball, like I have a nice collection of basketball cards at this point too. So, maybe I'll do something like that, like lock glass case, insure it, who knows, whatever. But for right now, they're just sitting in a safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smooth.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with Jesse and I. It's been a pleasure to have you, and congratulations again on the Poker Hall of Fame induction.
Thank you, guys.
Make sure to like, subscribe. Chad and I are going to be taking a little break. You'll see us again probably in September. So thanks so much for watching the Chad and Jesse Poker Show. We will see you next time.